made sense in my head.
Yeah. Like, where's he going with this?
You're listening to the WannaBes Mobcast.
Cool. So we are here for, I have no idea what episode we're on.
We're on episode 6.
Is this episode 6?
Yeah.
We missed a month though, didn't we?
Yeah, we got a couple. We've had back-to-backs.
If you say like every 6 weeks, no, yeah, I don't know, whatever.
No, we're trying to do one every month, but, you know, schedules. Like,
yeah,
these guys have their busy seasons, and, you know, we're working around talking to these people. But
so who do we have today, John?
Today, we have Louise Forsley, who is, let me read off her list of accomplishments here.
It's freakishly long, it's impressive.
She is an AMA Women's Extreme Champion, X Games Enduro X silver medalist, 6 times Women's Trials Champion, a stunt actor, and a member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Are you impressed yet? If not, get out. This is not the podcast for you.
Louise,
yes.
If you follow her on Instagram, you'll know she's a fantastic writer, and that's why we couldn't wait to get her on the podcast.
She kills it. She kills it. Watching her Instagram Enduro clips, I'm like, you just, it's inspiring and a little, I don't know. It definitely makes me realize how far I have to go in terms of
there's a ways to go.
I don't know. There's just something, I think because she's gotten into this, like, you know, she does a little bit of the training and stuff like that, and I think that makes her riding sort of feel more accessible because she's willing to talk about like how you do these things. And I think as a result, I actually feel further from her skill level than I might from, like, I don't know, Graham Jarvis is probably a terrible example, but like some of the other pros, I think you feel like, you know, they're a pro, so like of course they're doing these things, and she makes it feel accessible, which almost makes the gap feel bigger. I don't know. I'm not making any sense, but let's go talk to Louise.
Yeah, let's do that. I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah, whatever. Shut up, John. Louise Forsley, everybody.
Well, I think we're ready.
Yeah, let's get started. So thanks a ton for coming on. We immensely appreciate you taking the time. We've been following you on Instagram, I don't know how long, but for a while now, and are always impressed with your riding, and it's inspirational to say the least. We've been trying to get better on the riding side, and so just personally, you know, watching people who do better, that's always a nice sort of goal to set. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, go.
Well, I was gonna launch into it the same way we launch into every podcast pretty much, and just kind of ask, you know, how you got started, and just kind of give an intro in your own words.
So my dad got me a dirt bike when I was 8, or I was just turning 8, and I was just like really intrigued by bikes, I would say. So I was really excited when I saw it, and then I started riding it, and I was just like attached to it. So I kind of just played around on it was like a PW80, and then I got an XR100. So I just like rode in my parents, they had like 18 acres of land, so there was like a wooded area and trails and stuff and fields, so I could just like rip around for hours, and it was like a fun outlet, I would say, because, you know, when you're a kid, you're kind of just stuck and you're like waiting for your parents to take you places, or, you know, so you just find different ways to get around, whether it's bicycles, and luckily the dirt bike was another form for me.
Joe, are you getting jealous listening to this? I know. 18 acres, XR.
Yeah, it was awesome. I actually got to like ride to my neighbor's house. He was probably like a mile down the road, and I would just take trails over to his house, and then he had a dirt bike too, so then we would just go rip around and go back and forth, and it was like, it brought me a lot of freedom. So I really liked that.
So what am I doing wrong? So my daughter's now 12, but I started her riding when she was 8, and she came to me, I don't know, a year ago, and she's like, Dad, I have to talk to you. I'm like, all right, let's talk. What's up? And she's like, I really don't want a dirt bike anymore. Like, it's your thing, not my thing. I'm like, oh, you're breaking my heart, child.
Yeah, you know, it's not for everyone. I would say I'm a pretty unique person. I've always been a little weird, I guess, and part of it is just being obsessed with bikes. And, you know, I can't explain it. I think I was just born that way.
I totally get you. I'm the same way. I think both of us are. That's why we do what we do. And yeah, I just, my kids didn't pick up on it apparently. So there's still time, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I hope so. I mean, I think if I ever have kids, I would hope that they would have an interest in bikes, but I would totally be fine if they don't. And they want to do something easy and, maybe a little less risk involved.
Something not crazy.
Way less money.
Right.
So
I don't know if there is a way less money with kids, but yeah, I hear you.
That's the saying, right? It's teach your kids the love for motorcycles and they'll never have money for drugs.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That's definitely worth the money right there.
Yeah.
So that sounds like an excellent start, to be honest. I am really jealous. My dad was like, why would you want to ride around those things? Are dusty and noisy, and he was having none of that. So I was an adult before I got into it, so very envious.
Oh, really? Okay. That's I feel like that's a little bit harder to get into bikes, like when you get older. But it's always interesting when people do. I like that.
I think, enduro is like an older person sport in some ways, just because, like, who else wants to go out there and work that hard, right? Like, people want to go ride the track or something that's, like, fun and fast, right?
That's true. Yes.
But, yeah, make it a workout, and, I don't know, we're crazy.
Oh, man, it's a great workout. And, and it's fun at the same time, too.
Right. Who wants to go to the gym, right?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't mind going to the gym, but I'd probably rather ride.
Yeah, I mean, we
100%.
got a whole bunch of questions around that, because I think you're probably one of the first people that we've really talked to who's like, we kicked off the podcast with Graham Jarvis, and I actually read his book going into it, and it's like he just rode all the time, and that was like his conditioning and his fitness, and he does a little bit of running, but you're actually one of the first people who's like
riding.
Training, doing physical training for developing in the sport, which is interesting to see. So I wanted to really ask a lot of questions about that, but I kind of wanted to.
We didn't let her finish her background, though.
I wanted to learn more, kind of like when you made the transition, like when did you start thinking you could take it professional, and when did you get that interest?
Right. So when I was 13, my dad bought a trials bike for himself, and he was kind of just riding around for fun. And he's always been a motorcycle enthusiast. But anyways, I got to try one of his trials bikes at like a local fun event. And I kind of just really enjoyed myself. And I took to it pretty quickly. And it kind of went from like, I wasn't doing a whole lot. I wasn't really I hated school. I wasn't into school sports. And I was, probably 7th or 8th grade at this time. And as a middle schooler, like, it's just a tricky time. And, we're all just pissed off or kind of confused with everything.
Right there with you on hating school.
I had a lot of energy too. So anyways, getting into trials kind of all of a sudden like settled me down a little bit. And I was able to kind of like just use that as an outlet to get away from, school and stuff, just life in general. And I ended up putting a lot of energy into it. And at the same time, my dad noticed that I had like a natural talent for it. So I think like kind of together, we just kept deciding that we were going to go to competitions and go train different places on the weekend. It was kind of just, I set goals for myself, and he was definitely like happy with the goals that I was setting, and he kind of just helped me along the way. And so that just like, I started riding trials full time through high school. And then probably until I was 20, and then that's when I got a little burnt out from trials. And then around age 22, I got a dirt bike. And then that started my, I guess, enduro cross, now hard enduro career. That's the beginning of it, at least.
No, that's really
There's
cool.
more.
So I'm really curious. We listened to a little bit of another podcast you did where you talk quite a bit about your sort of experience learning and training and trials, and through all that, I was, asking myself, like, how, as a kid that age, how did you find the, the motivation to chase like a serious goal and not, I think myself and my kids and a lot of kids you see, like they pick something, they do it for 6 months and, blow it off and move on, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do think about that often, and I think it's really just part of my personality. I think that I hyper focus on things when I really like something, and I just kind of like get obsessed with it. I also think during that time I was maybe like searching for approval too. I think it kind of I started to like like my identity relied on it a little bit too, because it was just something that I always did and I wanted to do, and I was like praised for doing it too.
Yep.
And like getting better and accomplishing the goals that I wanted to accomplish, and just I basically wanted to become like the best trials rider in the world. Like I wanted to compete with the guys. I wanted to be at the top.
Yep. Nice.
And so I think that kind of just kept me pushing and driven, and like I think that's honestly why I got as good as I did get when I was younger, because there weren't other women riders really that I was training with. I was just trying to follow the boys and just get to the pro level class, which I mean, like I never did, because between like the female and the male, it's like, but the level is just different, which is okay. But I got pretty high. Like I got to the expert class, and I mean, it really made me a good trials rider. So I think all of that combination, that's what kept me going.
No, I like that. So you like to win, and you like to be recognized, which I totally respect. It's kind of addicting getting better at something, though, isn't it? Like I 100% hear you. Like I don't compete, but we definitely practice quite a bit, and yeah, it's just watching yourself progress is like such a high, you know.
Progression is very fun. And I think when I was younger, it was, I kind of like just focused on that. And I don't want to say it became an addiction, but I think I just got used to doing that all the time.
That makes sense. How was it like trying to balance like school? And I know you were trying to escape school, so you probably didn't care, but like somebody must have been making you.
I don't think there was any balance there. I actually dropped out of high school for like 8 months, and then realized with, my parents realizing that maybe that wasn't the greatest choice, because of like in the long run, I think we all knew that, it just probably wasn't going to work out. So anyways, I went back to school. They were like, I just barely snuck by graduating with the same class that I started with. Definitely no balance. It's mostly just bikes in my life.
I can live with that.
I'm wondering if there was like a point where, like, was it like a hard changeover from trials to enduro? Or are you still competing in trials today, or was it just you kind of lost interest in trials? Because I noticed most of the stuff you post about today is mostly enduro based, and seems like trials kind of on the side. But you've also gone to win, multiple trials championships as well. So.
Right. So there definitely was a quick change. No, not that quick. I basically kind of got burnt out on trials when I was about, I think I was 20. And I had just like come across a few like bad experiences with it within trainers and people. And I was just defeated for a little while, and I completely lost like all the joy in it. Like I really didn't have fun riding during a certain period. So I kind of realized that I just needed a break from it, and I needed to do something different. But so kind of during that time, I was like, I don't know, trying to work at different companies like UPS and landscaping companies, and just do like the normal thing.
That's no fun.
Exactly. For riders, that really only lasts for so long. Yeah. So I think like I was missing riding, and around that same time, I saw Endurocross on X Games. I think this was in like 2011, and I was like sitting on my couch watching this and just being blown away, because I knew I should have been there.
Like I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is trials on a dirt bike. What the heck? I should be there. So that really sparked a lot of motivation. Actually, before that, I had gotten a dirt bike through a friend in town who was a KTM rep. He just happened to live in the same small town in Bernardston, Massachusetts, that I did. So he gave me like a demo dirt bike for a while, and I got to ride that. And I kind of got hooked on that. And then when I saw Endurocross on X Games, I basically made a plan, like literally the next day, I made a plan of how I was going to go to the rest of the Endurocross series, so then I could go get to X Games the following year. So I basically like loaded up my van, told my dad what my plan was, and then headed out west, because that's where the Endurocross series was going to be. And started training at some different tracks and hanging out with like the Endurocross crowd. And so that, I think I was like 22 when that happened. And then I did get to go to X Games and race that. And then I was also racing the Endurocross series. So yeah, that was the transition.
I love it. It sounds like you were able to pick up the Endurocross skill set pretty quickly. And I've always been kind of curious, like what the I don't know what to call it, like the transition, I guess, between trials and like other kinds of riding. Like some people have told us that, riding trials is an excellent way to learn how to do enduro better on the big bike. And other people that we know are like, nah, yeah, I didn't learn that much. Just do it on the big bike directly, right? And so it sounds like you transitioned pretty quickly. So maybe that was really helpful for you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just the technical skills that you get from trials, it really just teaches you a lot about clutch control and how to like do proper like lifting your front wheel before you go over anything, or just the feeling of getting over obstacles. The thing that I definitely struggled with was all of a sudden going fast on an enduro bike and also jumping, because that's something that you really don't do on trials bikes.
Unless you want to crush it.
yeah. So I think that trials was a really good background, but I also had a lot to work on at that point too. But I think just back then, Endurocross was so hard that it was kind of like you just needed to get through the obstacles to do well. And now it's tamed down a bit, so you really have to be fast and you have to be good at jumping stuff as well.
That's really interesting. Sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off. I have a question about that progression, but keep going.
Oh, okay. I think I was just going to say... Oh, so from back then, if that was 2012, I've had multiple years to get comfortable going faster and riding motocross also.
Okay, so that just raises another question, and we're going to ask about motocross in a minute. But so we've talked to, like when we talked to Graham Jarvis, for example, his perspective on hard enduro is that it's like gotten progressively crazier over the last few years to the point where it's like pretty intense these days compared to what it was like a decade ago. You're saying that Endurocross specifically is maybe tamed out a little bit. And I'm super interested in that perspective, like what that looks like.
Yeah, I would say so. The only reason why I say that is because when I was racing, I raced in the end of 11, 2012, and 13. And then I was out of the sport for 6 years, I think. And then when I came back, the tracks just seemed way more mellow, like much easier. Some people say that it's the same, but we've just gotten better.
I was just going to say, maybe you just got so good. Humble brag.
I don't know. I really don't remember. I remembered like the rock sections being just huge and having holes everywhere. Now you can kind of just keep motoring through. I would like to think that maybe I've just gotten better, but I
don't know. I have a log in my backyard. We have like a little tiny practice track, and that log's getting smaller every day. So I don't know.
There you go. Maybe that is.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then you mentioned motocross. I want to chase up on that. For the speed aspect of what you do, is that something that you practice, like specifically on the motocross track?
Yeah, definitely. Just because it really does get you used to at least like trying to be aggressive and go fast. Because, yeah, I guess the slower stuff that you ride, you just like, it's like you don't really like hone in on those skills of aggression and constantly like pinning it in between all of the obstacles or the jumps.
Right.
And also, yeah, it gets you more comfortable with jumping, like air awareness, I guess, and how the bike is going to react. And also I kind of just started riding motocross too, because I had friends that were doing it, and I knew it was like a very weak link for me. So I kind of just wanted to work at it. And I also wanted to like have fun with my friends and try to ride like them, instead of being like, oh, I can't ride motocross because I'm not good at it.
I ride trials.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be the trials girl that just sticks to trials. I was not about that.
Cody Webb, I think, said that trials is like golf or something like.
Yeah.
That was funny. But no, I think that's cool. Like I love the concept of cross training. I mean, I try to mountain bike a little bit to work on my lines and things like that. So I like that idea. I'm doing all the talking, John. I got excited.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off. I have one more question about trials, because like most of our followers are all enduro people, and I'm sure they have some trials cross training in there. But do want to talk more about enduro. But I was thinking about it. We were talking about kind of growing up in trials. How you grew up on the East Coast, right? Is that
yes?
Okay. So when I think of the East Coast, I'm thinking like it's a lot of private property. There's not like on the West Coast we have like a ton of public land and stuff like that. Like I'm wondering what the trial scene, or like even the moto scene in general, is like on the East Coast, and like where are there places to ride? Are there big clubs? There's like I guess I just never even really thought about it, having lived my entire life in California, and you have
hundreds of miles of desert to go ride.
Yeah, like there's an infinite amount of terrain out here, and I'm just kind of wondering how, other than the kind of 18 acres, like, yeah, I can imagine somebody who's going to go ride on the pro level. You probably went and rode with a bunch of like other professional riders, riding with people who are better than you to just kind of level up like that. And I'm just kind of that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of private property. There are some like parks that we would have events at. And then I would also kind of travel. I was in Massachusetts, so it's pretty snowy and cold in the wintertime. So I was limited on riding. So I would travel down south, like to Tennessee. There's a trials training center there. I spent a lot of time there as a teenager. And even if I just like went like south a little bit just to get out of the cold, that was pretty helpful. But yeah, it's mostly, God, I guess I would say it's just like mostly private property or farmers that have a lot of land and are fine with us building trails on it. There's like snowmobile trails also that you can kind of ride, well, more like dirt bikes, but with trials you don't need a whole lot of room, which is really nice too. But there really is, like where I grew up, I kind of grew up out in like the country, so there's like everybody has woods in their backyard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you still do any trials competitions, or is that really behind you? Or
no, I do, and I'm kind of like trying to stay in there with it, but it's been tricky juggling both, and I kind of just prefer to focus on enduro, hard enduro, and enduro cross, because that's what I kind of just like feel very motivated by, and it takes like less thinking. But I am still trying to hang in there with the trials, the competitive women's trials pro class, and I'm kind of doing that just, I guess, just to still be part of it. A lot of my friends, I have a lot of good friends in the trials community, and I would be able to go to the Trials to Nations, and that's like in September. So, and then also, so Gas does the California Trials Invitational, and that's like really well previewed, showed, I guess. So that's like good exposure, I guess. Yep. So if I'm just still trying to hang in there, but I'm not doing like the full series, or I'm not doing like too much. I'm probably doing like a quarter bit of the trial stuff.
Is that like enough to maintain skill, or do you feel like that's something?
Yeah, no, I feel like recently every time, last year I really didn't ride much trials because the Hard Enduro series was so long and I was traveling so much for it.
Sure.
So I kind of feel like rusty every time I get back on the trials bike, and that's been pretty frustrating, but just trying to be patient and still like find, the fun in it. So yeah, it's pretty hard going back and forth between the trials bike and the enduro bike, just because they're just like such different motorcycles, and
is that, sorry, yeah. Real quick, John, is that back and forth, is that because of that aggression piece that you talked about, like when you're doing like enduro cross, like you said, you have to kind of go faster, and trials, I guess, is more thoughtful. Is that it, or is it the bike itself that's hard to transition back and forth on?
I would say both, totally, because like, yeah, all of a sudden, like you're either going fast and you got to keep going, right, and have force through things, where like trials, then you get on the trials bike and it's light and it's quick moving, and you have to balance it, and you have to kind of plan exactly what you're going to do. So it's like pretty mentally taxing too. So with hard enduro, it's just like, okay, you got to keep going the whole entire time.
Just go hit
figure
stuff.
out, like, yeah, exactly. Pick a line and just make sure you get through it. It's a little more physically demanding, where trials is like, all right, gotta get ready for, like, I don't know, an 18 rounds hole of golf or whatever. I've never played golf, but it is so mental like that.
I haven't either, but it just feels like a golf type sport. There's something about it. Like, obviously lots of skill involved, but just, I don't know, the pacing maybe.
Yeah. I wonder.
And yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just, it seems like there's always, you look at trials, right? There's an obvious benefit to riding enduro and having come from that background. But I was just thinking about it. We were saying that and wondering if there's like, if you've noticed any benefits to having come done enduro riding now, and if you've seen those benefits in your trials riding, like the kind of benefit kind of paying back the other direction.
Yeah, so the biggest one is that I just feel so much stronger on the trials bike now, because it really is like 100 pounds less than the dirt bike. So I feel like I can just move it around easier, manhandle it, and kind of just feel stronger on it overall. I would say that is the biggest advantage. Also, you kind of get used to like jumps and maybe splatter. Some of the techniques just start to look a little less big, because with some of the hard enduro stuff and motocross, like you are actually jumping some distance, where trials is like just get your rear tire 6 feet on top of the rock or something.
We talk about our
not like jump the 20-foot double.
I hear you. We talk about having like dirt bike eyes, and so sometimes like you get in the truck or something and you're like looking at something with your dirt bike eyes on, right? So I can see you like that same thing applying. To round out your background just a little bit, it also sounds like you do some stunt acting, which is totally awesome. Tell us about that. That's very cool.
Thank you. So I'll kind of tell you how like I transitioned into that. It was 2013, and I was racing enduro cross, trying to go. That was the same year that they had X Games Global. So I really wanted to go to all of those rounds, and the payout was really good. So I had like I really like was excited about that year with sponsors. But I ended up breaking my ankle or my leg like at the beginning of the series, and then missed a bunch of the X Games global rounds, and then went back to X Games that was in LA in August. It was like my first race back, and I crashed and I broke my collarbone during then. So I was kind of back in the same situation, like not really making any money because I wasn't racing, and I kind of had like high hopes for that year. And at this time, I think I was 25. So I was like, getting older, where I needed to be providing for myself.
Don't call 25 old, please.
Well, okay, no, you're right. It's not old, but it's definitely time to like start doing some adult.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So at the end of that season, I was like, man, that year was a bust. I'm kind of running out of money. I don't really know what I should be doing. Should I still be trying to race? I think I was like a little defeated. Again, with this pattern that I might have. And so I heard about this. Feld Entertainment was looking for female motorcycle riders that had technical background skills. So a few people had told me about it, so it seemed pretty promising. So I ended up going to an audition for it and did really well in the riding audition. Terrible at the rest of the audition, which was like fighting, acting, like.
We want you to be a real actor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like a few other things. But anyways, I ended up getting that job, and it was pretty cool because I looked at the contract, and like the weekly pay was really good, and I also got health insurance too. So, and it was a cool job. I'd still gotten it from having motorcycle skills, which that was like kind of always my goal, I guess, is to be able to make a living from riding motorcycles. So I took that job, and it was a full-time traveling tour. So we traveled all over the US and all over actually the world, and worked Thursday through Sunday, and then traveled Monday, and then had a couple days off, and then went right back to doing shows again. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but this was for Marvel Universe Live. That was the name of
That's awesome.
The show.
So my wife is a huge Marvel fan. Like, we see all the movies. She's got all the characters, like watches all the cartoons. It's a big thing. So that's awesome.
Oh, she would have loved to see that show then.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. I'm sure she's very familiar. I'm less. But so what kind of, what's involved with being like a stunt actor? Like, what does that really look like? What do you do?
Well, let's see, what does that look like? For the show, we all had tracks that we needed to do, and we were in costume. So you basically needed to learn exactly what you needed to do, whether it was like fighting, riding, taking falls. But then like my character was the Black Widow, so I had to be taught how to like walk around like the Black Widow and like
that sounds like a whole
you
thing.
just act like her, I guess. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I don't know.
So, but you actually, I mean, you actually got to ride like a motorcycle for some of these scenes. Like, do I don't know tricks on that? Like, what? Any examples?
So there was the first couple years we were on electric bikes for it, and then they changed the show. They like rebuilt it, and they put the Black Widow character on a trials bike. So that got way more fun. So then at that point, I was able to do like wheelies and nose wheelies, and there was a splatter that I had to do, or a jump. It was like a 18-foot jump into like this little, I guess it's like the stage, and it's like there's a little window in the stage that I would jump up into.
Yep. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. And that's
like
when I got pretty good at doing. Well, we spent a lot of time doing wheelies and nose wheelies back then. So, and anytime we had to like practice, we would just play on that. But
that's awesome.
I actually learned like a lot of other stunt stuff, so I can kind of like hold my own with maybe other stunt people. I don't know.
That's cool though. I freaking love that. Like transitioning motorcycles into something else.
Was the acting job a break from riding, and then you went back into riding, or so you weren't doing both at the same time?
Correct. I just went straight into the tour, and I honestly was okay with that. Like I kind of I was really happy with getting like having a job and getting paid, having consistency. It was a little tough just completely like stopping all riding and having like my own schedule of being an athlete. It was more of like, okay, now you're part of this group, and you do everything with the group, and it's kind of like being back in high school almost, or college, I guess, because there's 50 performers and then 50 crew members, and so we traveled together, we worked together, we trained together, everything, and it's just not like the normal type of training, I guess, that I would do as a rider. But that's where I started CrossFit, and I actually learned a ton about fitness and lifting and stretching and mobility. Like I did that for 5 years, and I learned so much more about my body. And I think I would definitely say over those 5 years, that's kind of when like I did become much stronger, and like just kind of like took my training to a different level.
It sounds productive. Yeah, I love it.
I just want to ask him, I at one point in my life I was like huge into fitness and like lifting. I did a lot of powerlifting, and I tore a bunch of muscles, so I kind of got out of it and got more into dirt bikes, and that just kind of took over my life from there. But like you know, from a professional athlete's like, I was kind of assuming that you did CrossFit, but I'm wondering like more of the training style, if there's anything particular that you do to lift to get stronger for the dirt bikes in particular. Like what are you doing, or is your training just kind of all based around becoming a better rider, and how does that work?
So I'm sure there are like riding specific programs, but I just kind of stick to CrossFit because you can get, you know, heavy lifting in and cardio in within a small window of time. I also just really like CrossFit gyms, and I like the atmosphere of it. And I kind of like just going to a class and being told exactly what to do, because I could work with probably moto trainers, but I think like there would have to be more like schedule and routine to getting myself to the gym, where CrossFit, I could just go, you know, they have so many different classes during the day. I can kind of just squeeze it in whenever I have the time. I can also do like, I know enough about those workouts that I can do them on my own at home. So that's kind of just why I lean towards CrossFit. I think like in the future, I would like to try more exercises that would like maybe help with balance or quickness or being like on unstable ground or something. But for right now, I just really try to squeeze in as much as possible, and CrossFit is the easiest for me to do.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like, it's like, I remember watching, Rich Froning back when he was, kind of the king of CrossFit and winning all the X Games or the CrossFit Games and everything. And like, his whole point about CrossFit was like, it's just good fitness for life and everything that you do. It's well-rounded fitness. And of course, if you get into it, then people will debate with you about whether CrossFit's the best or whatever. But, that makes sense, right? Like, it's good all-around fitness. And you look at Enduro, it's like, you go out on a good ride, it works every part of your body. Like, there's nothing that gets left out. And
yes,
I think that's probably
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, you're constantly hitting, like, all muscles. And you're also, like, the workouts change so much. And it kind of would force me to do, it forces me to do the assault bike or go for a run or do pull-ups. Like, it's so easy to not do the things that you're not good at and the stuff that you don't want to do. Like overhead stuff for me, or handstand walks, or like, so I also kind of like the variety too. That
makes sense.
I like to change it up. I wouldn't want to do the same thing all the time.
I think there's like a trap a little bit of like, if all you do is dirt biking, I think you can build those muscles, and then like it's too hard to like hike up the hill if you got to pick your bike up or something like that. Like general fitness, yes, but like there's definitely, I don't know if it's muscle memory.
No, it's so true. Like, because the other kind of passion hobby that I have is playing ice hockey. I play in a beer league, and it's like, but if I don't play hockey for like 3 weeks and I'm riding a lot in that time, I'll go and play hockey, and my there will be a specific set of muscles that I just it's you use those muscles and you don't use them for anything else, even though you're like kind of generally in shape. Like, you have to continuously do the thing in order to stay in shape for it.
I'm always surprised that like you ride like crazy, right? And it's like a great workout, and you're it's exhausting, and you get better and better at it fitness wise, and then you get off the bike and try to like hike up a hill to get like a camera shot or something. You're like, I can't walk. What is happening?
It's like, I don't know how to move my body anymore. I can only ride a bike. I will say CrossFit also forces you to be like pretty mobile and flexible, and as growing up as a rider and not stretching enough, I like could barely, I still struggle like on my squats and stuff.
That's
because
so true.
my ankles just aren't flexible, and my hips are tight because I'm constantly squeezing the bike, and like my overhead mobility is forward because I'm always in this position. So I do really appreciate CrossFit for that too. I've learned a ton about stretching and mobility and strengthening like these muscles that are usually never touched because the riding muscles are just always there.
No, I think like being flexible is going to help you avoid injury too when you go down. Like being able to to fall and not rip something apart. Yeah, super.
No, that happened to me.
Totally.
I know I'm not flexible, and there was this one time we were riding the mountains around here, and it was icy. The bike slid out from underneath me, and it took 1 foot in front of me. The bike slid out from underneath me, and I did the splits long ways, and I tore my hamstring, and like from. It turned black from like the bottom of my butt cheek to the top of my knee, and it was just, the whole thing was black for probably 3 months or something like that. And it was just
that's
I'm
so
sure
gnarly.
if I stretched every once in a while, that might not have been so bad.
Would have been better, right?
That sounds painful.
So how do you work in, like, I imagine you have to ride consistently several days of the week in order to stay up on that, and then you're training in the gym. Like, how do you balance that? And like, it seems like at some point you've only got so many calories to burn, right?
Yeah, actually, trying to balance it is probably the toughest part, and like maybe one of my bigger stressors of my lifestyle, because it's easy to think, I'm not doing this enough, or I'm not doing that enough. I haven't been on my trials bike in like 2 months because I've been training for a hard enduro race, or I haven't been to the gym because I don't want to be sore for the races coming up. So it really is hard to balance it, and I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. And I would say sometimes there just isn't balance. I just do a week to week program for myself. That's kind of another reason why I don't really like train with anybody, because I kind of just need to make my own schedule as I know what is coming up. So like the last couple months, I've just been training for hard enduro. I've been mountain biking a lot to try to get my stamina up for hard enduro. I've also been able to make it to the gym because of that reason. Like I didn't have any races. So I was able to kind of lift heavier and be okay with being a little bit more sore. But like once the races come around, I don't really want to do that. So I'll probably just stick to more riding or more mountain biking. And so now I've committed to doing the California Trials Invitational. So now I'm trying to ride trials at least like 2 times a week. But I also have a hard enduro a couple of weekends before that. And I am just like really trying to stress my body in the hard enduro situation, because I know I could get through the trials event, but hard enduro, if I'm not like physically ready and my heart rate hasn't been in those like high zones, or my body hasn't been pushing for 5 hours, then that's gonna affect me more than like, oh, I didn't balance enough on my trials bike. So
that makes sense.
So trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah, I kind of just go week by week, plan what I have going on, a plan who is riding. I do like to ride with people. If there's, like a trials group, I'll try to go with them. Or if there's hard enduro, I'll go with them. Or if my friends are going to ride moto, I'll do that. And then on the days that I have kind of by myself, I'll just either mountain bike, because that's my favorite form of exercise right now. And it's like pretty like therapeutic, and I don't have to worry about too much.
Right.
And it's like the easiest thing that I could do. And then, I'll sneak in gym sessions. Like today, I had a bunch of other stuff going on, so I only had like an hour window to work out. So I figured I'd do that. But tomorrow I'll go probably ride hard enduro in the morning, and then my roommate is riding trials in the evening, so I'll probably do that after. So, which doubles.
Sounds worse than having a job, right?
Yeah,
this is an intense.
I'm exhausted just listening to you.
What? So many questions.
Go for it. But I will say I do go through, like high strain weeks, and then I'll have like a rough week where my body does not feel ready for anything, and I will like struggle to even get in, a workout or a mountain bike ride or whatever. So it is kind of like a hard balance while trying to listen to my body at the same time and not push it too much.
Sure. I also love mountain biking for like the cardio. I'm curious. So are you like out hill climbing? I'm assuming like downhill is not enough of a workout to get your heart rate up for what you're talking about, but maybe I'm not doing it right.
No, I like both. Like on Saturday, we just did like a 10-mile climb that was like the elevation was super high. And then, that took such a while. So that was good strain, for heart rate. But a lot of the time I will just go to, I don't know do you guys know what Greer is?
Don't know.
No.
It's in Menifee or Marietta.
I'm not the mountain bike guy.
Yeah,
so
no.
Okay.
I just like freestyle it. I don't usually hit like the trail system. So
yeah, it's just like a bunch of trails that are pretty good climbs and then really fun downs. And so I can spend like probably 2 hours there, just like climbing, going down, climbing, going down. Like, it gets my heart rate up.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I found that with mountain biking, you can like, because it's kind of a repeatable, I don't know if that's the right word, but you can get like a consistently high heart rate, where I think like when we go like enduro riding, you're like hitting these peaks, right? Where you like hit an obstacle or a hill climb or whatever, and you spike, and then you have some time in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can like really be uncomfortable and suffer on a mountain bike, which is good.
Yeah, for a while, right? Yeah.
Extended suffering is the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So, you ride trials, you ride enduro, you ride motocross, you ride a mountain bike, you train CrossFit.
You on a quad?
Is there any kind of other cross training that you do to like build a skill in some other area, or is that kind of
You're not satisfied, John?
No, there's got to be something else in there. There's got to be a little bit more.
Good question. And I'm trying to think about if there's anything else that I do. I have a trials bicycle. I rode that a lot while I was on tour because there's nothing else to do and I could travel the bicycle, and that's pretty good. That helps like it just helps trial skills overall. What else? I should probably do more yoga. I haven't done any of that recently. I do my own stretching routine, but
yeah.
And then I like to swim just for fun, but I guess that's kind of it. Well, I mean, I try to like exercise my brain too, and just meditate and
like that.
get myself to slow down a little bit, I guess.
I always figured dirt biking was the therapy, but no, I like that.
Yeah, I think
not if it's competitive, I guess, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For, just like going out on weekends and having fun, because,
Right.
that's your time away from your job. But when I get to a race, it's like, this is my
You're
job.
on,
and
yeah.
so I need to, like the stress of that, I need to know how to control that.
That makes sense.
Do you ever get tired of it? I mean, like, do you just need a break? Go on vacation, not think about dirt bikes or anything on two wheels for a while?
Yeah, so last year, it was probably around August, we had just finally finished the Hard Enduro series, which was like, man, it seemed like 10 races and just pretty heavy on traveling. And we were going into the Enduro Cross season. And I remember going into the Enduro Cross season being like, okay, I'm excited for something different, but I'm really excited for when the season is over and I can get back to biking and working out and just like doing more of what I want to do. And I did like take some time to visit friends and went home for Christmas. And yeah, I totally look forward to downtime. But I also try not to, like if I am going through a period where I'm just not motivated to ride, I try to like work on my brain, because when I ride the best and when I train the best is when I am like motivated and very happy to be doing exactly what I want to be doing.
Right. When you make it fun.
So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta keep it fun. Like that is, that's my number one thing.
Yeah, if you turn it into work, it's kind of kills the fun.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Burn out fast that way. I want to change gears just a little bit, and being sensitive to the fact that we're a couple of dudes asking this question, but like, what is it like being a woman in this sport, and whatever you feel comfortable, sort of talking about there. I mentioned my daughter earlier, and I'd love for her to, have somebody in this sport to look up to, but I also think that like obviously tends to be a fairly male-dominated sport, and we're curious what that looks like from your side.
That's a great question, and I actually saw it on the paper yesterday, and I was like, this is interesting. Maybe I'll give some real insight on this.
Please do.
It's so basically just like physically, it is like you have to be strong to ride dirt bikes. So that's kind of frustrating. Like it's not frustrating, but I can look at guys sometimes and be like, well, yeah, of course you got up that. You're like 6 feet tall and
right.
You weigh, you have a bunch of muscle or whatever.
Carried the bike
so
up.
It's kind of nice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I definitely I realized that I need to just constantly try to get stronger and then also use my skills to get better. But anyways, so back to what it's like to, compete against them and be around guys all the time in an atmosphere where like the majority, I would say if I ride with like local riders, I'm probably going to be better than them just because of where my level is at.
Yep.
And guys who are like maybe a B or A class rider, I think have a hard time with that. So then, like kind of
I could see that it gets competitive in like an unfortunate way sometimes, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We see that even between guys, right? Like it sometimes can get just a little, I don't know, unfriendly, I guess. Depends who you ride with,
right.
But yeah.
It's kind of like all of a sudden it's like a pissing contest, and it's kind of like, so a year ago I was riding with a local guy, and I like did something better than him and got through it so much cleaner and quicker and easier. And he was just like, said to me like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Like, you're the inferior, I'm the superior. I was like, oh, that's not, and he kind of said it like in a, like a joking way, but it was also said. And I was like, wait, like, do you know how many years I've been doing this and how much hours like I've put on this bike and for how long I've done it? It's like, of course I'm going to get up this better than you. Like, this is part of my job. Like, this is why this is the position that I'm in. So So it's kind of like things like that. But anyways, I just like kind of brushed it off, and I just like take it in, and deal with it, because not all guys are like that. You know, some guys are super supportive and easy to ride with. There's another time I was riding a trials event. This happened probably like a year ago too. And I always like compete with the guys in the expert class. And one guy actually came up to me and asked me if I had cheated because I got a lower score than he did. And I was like, that time kind of pissed me off, because I was just riding really well, and he just thought that like I must have cheated to beat him. So when I kind of hear things like that, it's just like, oh man. But also I kind of like, you know, I've always dealt with that, so it's just part of it. And sometimes it's great motivation to be better. Like when they say that to me, I'm just like, okay, now I'm really
gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think, I mean, for our part, like anytime we get to ride with somebody who's better, that's an awesome opportunity. I had a boss once a long time ago he was a runner, and he said, if you don't run with people who are faster than you, you're never going to get faster. So, but yeah, I think the opportunity, like, I love it when somebody's better than me. But on the flip side of that, like, we definitely ride with some people who would struggle to keep up. And I sometimes feel a little bit guilty hitting an obstacle and cleaning it, and then looking back and other people are like falling all over it. So I could see how that, you know, when you're a woman doing that, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to imagine what that would feel like, you know, trying to sympathize or whatever, but
yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm so used to being in that environment and being around it. And like, I always want to ride with guys, because they are like, you know, better than, not always better, but they're just easy, or what am I trying to say? There's
more guys in it, so there's probably like a higher chance or whatever that you're going to find somebody who's a good rider amongst them. Yeah, maybe. Yes,
exactly. So there's a lot of women getting into motorcycling right now, but they're just like, you know, it's at a different level right now for all these people. Not everyone.
I love seeing them get into, and we've got, I don't know, the percentage has dropped off as we've gotten a little bigger on Instagram, but it's like 10 to 15% of our subscriber base is women, and I think it's awesome, you know. So
yeah, it's funny. My day job, completely unrelated to motorcycles. My boss lives in Canada, and she was saying, you know, during the pandemic, you know, like, how do you know you're a woman living in this specific town? It had something to do with buying motorcycles, but basically the gist was like every woman in that town during the pandemic
getting into it
just got a motorcycle and started riding. And I was like, wow, that's like the coolest thing. Like, I mean, because what else are you going to do? You're just going to go hit the trails and, you know, get outside, and, you know, it was like the only thing to do. I mean, I know during that time it was all there was for me to do. Like, it was great. Yeah. But I wonder why, you know, like, why is that? Like, why has it been such an appealing sport for men? And like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of women that ride, but not nearly as many. I'm just kind of wondering from your perspective why maybe it's not as appealing of a sport, or hasn't been up to this point.
So kind of what I noticed since I was away from the sport for those like 5 or 6 years that I was on that stunt show, that there really weren't that many women in riding. And then when I came back to it, all of a sudden I noticed that like there's these big groups of like female riders, like Dirtastic, and there's just lots of them right now. And I noticed that like a lot of their stories is like, oh, well, I was at the races with my family and I like saw another female rider and she was riding, so I wanted to join. Or, you know, I was like kind of like they wanted to do something also, and then there was other female riders there, so then it was like inspiring for them to just, you know, go ahead and do it. Also, I think it's like a lot of like girlfriends and wives and, you know, daughters of people that are kind of already in the sport. I have seen female riders that are like get into the sport all on their own, and like props to them, because that's hard. You have to figure out, you know, like you have to get a truck or a van. You have to work on your bike. You have to load it in and out. Not saying that women can't do that, but like, you know, back to like the difference physically between a man and a woman, like men are just stronger and taller, and they can, you know, get the bike, like rip it off the truck and not deal with it, where, you know, there's like a 5'4" woman trying to like dangle her foot off the back of a tailgate. Like that's scary.
I hear
so
you.
I kind of see like also, and that's, I think when there's more female riders around, it's like they can all help each other too and support each other and go on these group rides together. Like
That
it's
totally
pretty
makes
cool.
sense.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you see it in any kind of these conversations, but that question of like representation, and like my brother got me into dirt biking, you know, he started ahead of me, and, you know, he learned from other people. So like even being a guy, like, and not having any sort of access issues, if you will, it still helps to have somebody sort of show you what to do and, you know, teach you the basics. Totally. And he took me out and taught me how to ride hills and how to, you know, hit the brake in the sand and all that stuff. And like, that was a real big help. Right. So
yeah, it really does help. There's like getting into motorcycles. There's definitely like a lot to know.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. A lot of best practice and things like that. But.
On that note, is there anything you do to set up your bike specifically? You get it out of the box. Sherco gives you a new bike. Are you doing anything, lowering it or whatever?
I honestly like to keep it pretty stock, just because if I do go anywhere and I have to jump on a different bike that's brand new.
Interesting.
But I will say I get my suspension done. I have a lowered seat. I probably, because I'm still competitive, like I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, there are some adjustments and changes that I do. And then we also have a lot of sponsor products that need to be like swapped out, you know, like tires, clutches, plastics, handlebars, all that stuff. So I honestly, I don't like to really like get too deep into changing my bike, because I kind of want to keep it as like bike work is not my favorite. I don't hate it. I'm pretty good at working on my bike, but I would rather spend minimal time working on my bike and maximum time riding it. So I think that's also why I avoid diving into anything or making any big changes.
Right. Are there any specific components that you do like changing out? Like you mentioned some sponsored stuff. Is there anything in particular that like, yeah, I would definitely want this part if I had a choice?
Yeah, so the Rekluse Clutch, they make a manual one for the Sherco, and that's really nice. That's kind of like a must-have not must-have, but they're very nice. We run the FMF pipes. We have the lowered seat concepts seat for me. Ride Shop does my suspension. He's from Arizona.
Nice.
And right now I think we'll have Michelin tires this year too. The arc levers, those are really nice. Those are super handy, so you're not snapping levers left and right on like hard enduro rides. Right. Also, I use the wraparounds just to kind of save the handlebars and the grips a little bit. And like when I do go back east, then I'm not clipping trees. So
sounds like we're doing a lot of things right, John. She's naming off all my upgrades.
Yeah. Good.
I want to dive into the Rekluse Clutch. So you won't know this, but we have a long history of clutch problems, or I do. And so I've eventually switched to the Rekluse manual clutch, and I also really like it. But I'm wondering what your experience with it. Like I've noticed it's got like a little bit more like cold drag to it and some other things, but I really like the way that it feels and the way it sort of delivers on, you know, we do a lot of hill climbing just for fun, but obviously you're burning into your clutch there. But what are your thoughts on it? Like, what's been your experience?
So with the Sherco, yeah, it's really nice because it kind of keeps it from, sometimes there's like a squeal in the clutch or a little bit of a drag. And so it helps keep it from doing that. And it just feels also very responsive too. Yeah,
I've noticed that. Do you run any kind of like those levers that make like the pull easier, or is it stock pull, just a stronger lever?
No, I do stock.
Okay.
What bike are you riding? I know you're riding Sherco, but
it's a 250.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I know we're kind of getting a little bit low on time.
I think we're pushing time. We can wrap if you're running out. I think it's been a ton of fun talking to you. We had some questions around your racing history specifically, if you've got a couple minutes, but no pressure.
No, it should be fine.
Okay.
I'm here.
Well, I was wondering, so you went and you did stunt acting, right? You said 5 years?
Yes.
And then you just went and jumped back into racing. How was that?
That's another good question, because it's kind of like a it's a cool story because when I decided that I wasn't going to do the touring stunt show anymore, I got off of tour in hopes of getting into the stunt industry in LA and doing film and commercials as like using my motorcycle experience to get that into the stunt industry, which the industry is very small and it's very hard to get into. So I knew it was kind of going to be a hustle, but that I probably, if I just pushed away at it, I would eventually get in there because I do have contacts and like I know people in the industry. So I was working away on that while kind of Sherco was giving me some opportunities to ride trials here and there. They also I kind of like asked for a dirt bike to see if I could race enduro cross again. It was like one of those things that I just made a decision on in like a weekend because I was bored, and then just like dove into it. And then all of a sudden I was racing enduro cross again. I love it. But it was kind of just like a side thing because I had missed riding, and I wanted to like, it was fun for me again. So I just was going to be like, all right, I'm just going to have fun with this and hang out with my friends and ride again. And then work on getting into the stunt industry. So I actually got a couple jobs. I did like a music video with Alicia Keys. That was a really cool opportunity.
Nice.
But then COVID hit, and that like made the stunt industry so much smaller to get in and harder to get into.
Well, they weren't doing as much filming, right? Like that, a lot of that paused or shut down entirely for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And like maybe they were, but they were probably only using like really well-known inside people for all the gigs.
Right.
So when that was happening, Sherco and like motor, like, you know, these races were kind of growing, and I kind of just like, I was like, well, maybe I should start heading in this direction. And Sherco was giving me more opportunities to go to races, and I was doing pretty good. And I was also during COVID, I had a lot of time to film and kind of grow my Instagram, which was super helpful too, just for me as an athlete or stunt performer, like the whole thing that I'm trying to go after.
Yep.
It helped a lot to do that. So then kind of towards the end of that year, Sherco offered me like a contract to be a factory rider. So all of a sudden it was going to be like I was going to have a form of income again, which I was just before only relying on stunts for that. And that was like kind of getting a little tricky. So yeah, I jumped at the opportunity and was kind of, I didn't really see it. It was not what I expected to do after leaving tour. But I think the other reason that it is pretty cool, because when I left racing in 2013 to go on this tour, I kind of had a bitter taste in my mouth with how I ended things and how my racing career ended and being an athlete. So I felt like when this opportunity came up, it was like a second chance, but I also was going to do it very differently. And I also realized how much I missed it, how much I missed the lifestyle, and how much I missed the training and the racing and being competitive now that I had a different look at it. So it's pretty cool. There was a couple years, or definitely that year, that I was like, wow, I just got this like second opportunity at racing. And it's kind of like, again, my dream job. So I felt very grateful for that. And it really changed. Like, yeah, it changed a lot for me.
Is there anything in particular, like without, giving anything personal away, that you mentioned like a different perspective. Can you talk at all about like what that new perspective is, or is there any like tips or tricks to help people get to where you are now?
Yeah. So when I got that opportunity, I was very excited, but then that panic kind of set in, like, oh my God, am I going to ruin it like I did 10 years ago? So I went to, she's like a head coach, I guess, or a mental coach, but she's also just like a life coach. And so I worked through a lot of stuff, like a lot of fears that I had around racing and around, failure, and just completely like started looking at it as like, this doesn't identify me anymore. There's a whole nother world. I'm just choosing to do this because I love it, and it's what I want to do. Like I love being an athlete. I love training. I love going to races, there's a part of me that is pretty competitive. And then also with the social media thing, like I am able to be on a platform that does like inspire others or, you know, show what I'm doing and encourage others. And now I'm like doing training too, so that helps as well. So basically, yeah, I just changed my thinking to choosing to do this because I want to, and know that yeah, I guess just kind of like
it makes sense. I think what you're saying is put the fun back in it, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally hear you there.
And it was pretty cool. Last year, I like shocked myself in the fact that I pretty much accomplished like everything that I wanted to. Like I would come away from races and be like, holy shit, I can't believe I rode that good. Or like, damn, I'm so proud of myself for getting through that.
Nice.
Like, and that was stuff I never really talked to like, I wouldn't use like positive reinforcement with myself 10 years ago. And this year or last year, I just like constantly was just talking to myself like I would talk to a best friend.
That framing makes a big difference too. I mean, if you're not sort of looking up to yourself, or I had heard somebody say one time that like if you didn't look back at last year and think like, man, what was I thinking back then? Like you haven't come anywhere, right? And so progression is really nice to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
I am becoming very sensitive of the time. I know we're keep going. I have so many questions that I know
we could talk to you for forever.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool.
But we'll let you go because we would talk to you forever, and that's not fair. We really appreciate you coming on, Louise. I think we would definitely love to have you back. There's a ton of stuff on our list that we just didn't get to, and we knew it was going to be an interesting conversation. We appreciate you indulging us, and thanks for sharing some of your time with us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I probably was talking a lot, but
that's what we want you to. That's why we invite you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
Great.
We want to. We set this podcast up to hear from people who are doing the kinds of things that I think everybody looks up aspirationally to, and to bring those perspectives and to get our viewers something different to think about. So we accomplish all that.
It seems so inaccessible, I think, from a professional standpoint, to be able to like have the opportunity to talk to people who have just thrown their lives into this and really delve into it and you know, make it what they do, you know, both a passion and, you know, a way of making a living. It's just like, it's the coolest thing. And I think that so many people want to know more about what that lifestyle looks like and how they can, you know, especially for the younger people. Like, I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine, you know, at some point I would love to see them, you know, take an opportunity like that and go and grow into that space. But, you know, enduro and trials are such small sports, and it's just making it accessible for everybody, I think is just awesome to hear those stories.
Plus, very selfishly, it's such an honor, I guess, to talk to people who are doing cool things like you are. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I appreciate that. That it's really. I forget about what I'm doing sometimes, and I forget that like I'm seen just because I'm like with myself all the time, so I don't know exactly, you know, like how many people are watching me or understand the lifestyle. So it's really nice when people tell me things like that, because it really does, like, it keeps me going instead of thinking like, should I get a regular job? Like, this is
don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
Listen, we're on this podcast because we're trying to not have regular jobs. Don't tell my boss. But we still have the day jobs, and we're pushing our little business on the side for the moment. So looking at somebody who's doing this for real is super inspiring. And of course, we like your writing too. We love it. So
wow, thank you. I appreciate that. That's super nice of you guys. You guys are super cool.
Awesome. Well, listen, we'll invite you back sometime. We loved this, and again, really appreciate it. And we'll let you go. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Cool. So we
didn't get through even half our questions.
No. Well, we got like
half of them.
Maybe half.
That was a fun conversation.
Yeah, she had so much to say and so much
wisdom.
To really bring to the table, and
just down to
things
earth,
I'd never thought about.
Yeah, very approachable person. I love that she talked about exercising her mind or training her mind. Like, hadn't even thought about that. I think, you know, that stuck out to me because for me, like, dirt bike riding is not my day job, and as a result, like, it's the thing I do instead of go to therapy. And so I've always thought about it as like, that's my therapy, right? You get out on the trail and you get that zen going on, and it was interesting to hear from a professional how, like, riding can be that, like when you're doing it for fun, but when you're competing, right, it's definitely not a zen moment necessarily. Like, it's competitive and you have to work at it. And so the stuff she does to sort of train mentally was interesting.
I didn't think to ask this, but it was like, you know how you're like hitting an obstacle and you can't do it and you can't do it and you can't do it, and it's like, you know, it's in your head. It's not like, so like, I can watch you do an obstacle and you can get up it fine, you can keep going up and going up and going up, and I'm like, I don't know why I can't do this, and like I just keep messing up. It's like a mental thing. So I'm wondering, that is, you know, maybe that's a question for the next episode, is like, how do you break through, like, stop tripping over your own brain?
You know, it's interesting you should ask that, because in prep for this I was watching just some of her, like, her last couple of Instagram posts, and she had one up, I don't know, from like a couple days ago. I was watching it just last night, and she shows the progression of, she's doing like a splat across some rocks, and she's like, hits it and drops the bike right, you know, it's just like a double splat or something, and she drops it after the first obstacle, like the first time, and then she makes it to the second obstacle but falls on it, right? And just like, there's that progression, and then she shows the last one, and it's such a pro move, and it's, you know, it's just like right up the whole thing. And it's like, I think a lot of pros, they post that version on Instagram, and you're like, that's so sick, but like, it's so far from me. And that's what I was trying to say in the beginning, that, you know, when we started this podcast, is like, you watch her showing the progression, and you're like, okay, like, I could maybe learn to do some of that, right? But I realize, like, how far I am from it. And, you know, anyway.
Well, even the pros have to,
everybody has to practice, right? You know that, but like, I think she's not afraid to show that, and I that makes it feel relatable to me.
It's the humility, you know, like, it's, it makes it more accessible, and I mean, that's, you know, those sorts of people, and the reason why we do this podcast is to bring the story to you guys. So, thank you for watching.
Like, subscribe, hit
check
buttons
out
down there somewhere.
We're gonna put links to her Instagram, our Instagram, our chin mounts, which we're gonna show you right now. Ouch.
We have, I don't know if we have others floating around. So we manufacture these chin mounts, unique to every helmet in our lineup. They are awesome. They perfectly fit the shape and style and whatever curves of your helmet. Do a fantastic job of putting the camera in exactly the right spot to capture the footage just as you see it. I could talk about them forever, but all the stuff is down in the description, and we've done a ton of YouTube videos specifically around these chin mounts, their value proposition, the different helmets that we cover, and answer, or try to answer all the questions you might have. So you purchasing one of these chin mounts does you a favor, because it helps you create content, but it does us a favor because it lets us keep making things like this podcast episode. We have many more coming, and if you haven't looked at the history, if this is your first time with us, check out the history. We started out with Graham Jarvis. We talked to Cody Webb and Coop Rabbit, Anthony Johnson, Travis, a bunch of really cool folks, and we've got more lined up, so you don't want to miss those, and you do want to go ahead and check out past episodes. Well worth your effort and time.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Check it out.
Yep. Now go away.
That's my like favorite outro.
That's my exit. It's my exit. Get out. I'm done. Shoot. Done. Can I take these headphones off yet?
Yeah, these things are killing me.